210. On page 210, there's a nice big blue box. We've discussed some of what you see in that blue box. And then I see this section called Think A, where we're crossing out incorrect forms in parentheses. Stick with me on this section. We're going to jump around a little bit in this section. In fact, we're going to start today with number 3. The diamond is the blank of precious stones. Can you use that idea of avoiding double comparison to decide which needs to be crossed off? Serenity?
Most brightest needs to be crossed off.
You're right. That's that incorrect double comparison. How about number 4? Never seem blank than the people you are with. Kenny, which of those needs to be crossed off? Think of the idea of avoiding double comparison.
More wiser.
Do cross off more wiser. Wiser is comparative, more is comparative. We just don't need them both. Put your pencil in your book, please, and close your books. Well, there's one loose end in this lesson tied up. Avoid the double comparison. Here's something else that I want you to think about. And can I just be real honest with you? This loose end today, I think, is the most challenging and the one that's going to slip by the most people when we see it in sentences. Be super aware of this tip and don't let it slip by you in sentences. Here's the idea. We sometimes will compare a person to a group. But when we do that, usually the person is part of the group. So when comparing a person to a group of which that person is a member, use other or else with the comparison. Here's an idea. My sentence says, Ella is friendlier than any girl in the class. Now this sentence, as it is, seems to separate Ella from the class, as though Ella is not part of the class. But that's not the idea I'm trying to get across. Ella is part of the class in this sentence. So we will use one of the words that I've given you, either other or else, to help it be obvious that Ella is part of the group. Alia, can you think of a way to fix the sentence?
Ella is friendlier than any other girl in the class.
Hey, that's an easy way to fix that sentence. Put that other in there before girl. That helps us to understand that Ella is part of the group. We could use else also in the sentence. See how else I could fix this sentence? Ella is friendlier than anyone else in the class. It required a little bit of rewording, but you do see how we can make sure that it's obvious that Ella is part of the group. Now in our books today, we're going to come across some sentences like this. Be ready to spot those comparisons of a person to a group, and you can help make it obvious that the person is part of the group. Let's start with some easy sentences in your language books. Go with me, please, to page 210. I told you we're jumping around some. Jump down to number 6 in this section. Jack is smarter than blank in his class, with that idea of comparing a person to a group. Ryan, which word or words should we cross off in number 6?
Anyone else?
That's what we should cross off? If we cross off anyone else, then that means that Jack is not part of his class. Do we want the understanding that Jack is in his class? Yes. So we better keep anyone else and cross off just anyone. This is not a double comparison. This is just making it clear that Jack is part of his class. And jump down with me now to number 10. Alexis plays chess better than blank on her chess team. Michaela, can you tell us which one to cross off?
Anyone?
Do cross off anyone. The idea is that Alexis is part of her team. Do you see how that works? There's our second of 4 loose ends tied up today. Put your pencil in your book and close your book. You're going to like this next little bit of a loose end because it's something that you are already familiar with. Fewer to count, yes, less to measure. Say that with me. Fewer to count, less to measure. I think you've heard me say that already this year. I think you've had the opportunity to repeat that after me this year. The idea with this is that if something can be counted, use fewer to describe it. If something cannot be counted, then use the word less. Here's what I mean. We have less homework on Fridays than on Mondays. This is a correct sentence. because we don't count homeworks. I have 3 homeworks today. I have 2 homeworks today. No, we count subjects, but we don't count homeworks. And since we don't count them, we would say the idea of measuring them. I know you don't get out a scale and you don't get out a measuring cup. It's not that kind of measuring. It's a different kind. But it's the idea we don't count it, we measure it, so we use the adjective less when we can't count a thing. However, we can count subjects. So we could say there are fewer subjects of homework on Fridays than on Mondays. We can count subjects, so fewer is the adjective I should use to describe them. I want you to think about my fun jelly beans. Fewer or less? Should I say I have fewer jelly beans now than at the beginning of the lesson? Or I have less jelly beans now than at the beginning of the lesson? Corbin?
Fewer.
I should say fewer because I can count them. Corbin, come enjoy too, and we'll come get your opinion from you here in just a moment. How about some other things that you can count versus measuring? Something you can count, Mella?
Books.
Yeah, you can count books. Something else, Marissa?
Money.
Yes, you can count money. Now, we're going to come across a sentence here in just a little bit that will reference money. Now, I want you to think about this. Would you say I have fewer monies today than yesterday? No, you would probably say I have less money today. If I said I have fewer quarters today, that would make sense. Quarters can be counted. When we say money, I know we count money, but let's just understand that we wouldn't say it like this. I have less monies, or I have fewer monies. So we would use that adjective less. We would use the adjective less when it comes to money. How about something else that we measure instead of count? Rain? We measure sugar instead of count. Aren't you glad you don't have to count your sugars when you're baking? That might take, we would never bake anything ever. Mella?
Water.
You measure water, good.
Salt.
Yes, how about air? Do you count or measure air? What do you think?
Measure.
I would measure air, so I would say there is less air at the top of a hot mountain than there is at the base of it. Open your language books, please. Let's go back to page 210. Looking there at the same sentences we've been looking at, jumping around. We're ready for number 2 now. There were fewer or less people attending the meeting today. Rain, which of those adjectives needs to be crossed off?
Less.
You cross off less, you can count people. Rain, after you cross off less, come get 2 jelly beans. Coming to number 5. Ryan, we'll look to you for an answer there. We have less or fewer money than we had last year. Cross off.
Less. Wait, I mean fewer.
Cross off fewer. You do that crossing off and then come get 2 treats. And we need to get a recap here of who's been enjoying some of our treats. Come on down, Ryan. You can come up. Let's see. Who have I missed over here? Shania, what's your favorite of the 2 that you tried?
Yellow.
You like yellow the best. Corbin, you've tried some?
I tried the orange and the green, and I like the green.
Oh, I've got to fight with Corbin over my greens. Mella, did you get to try some? Was it Marissa that tried some? Somebody else on this side? Rain, what did you think? Your favorite of the 2 that you tried? You like the blue the best? Okay, Ryan, you just got yours. We might have time to come back to you. I have one more loose end for you today. Put your pencil in your book and close your book. Sometimes you might hear people, especially if you're like me and you come from a more rural background, you might hear people use them as an adjective. Them jelly beans sure are tasty. We've used them as an adjective to describe jelly beans. Well, that's not correct. Them does not work as an adjective. Instead, we should use the word those. Those jelly beans surely are tasty. So I'm going to ask the question, them as an adjective? And your answer is, no, use those. Them as an adjective?
No, use those.
See what I mean here? Them boys are good ball players. Them as an adjective?
No, use those.
So I can change that just simply by putting those as my adjective. Open your books once again. That was 4 loose ends. We're avoiding the double comparison. We make sure we include a person with the group that we're comparing them to. Fewer to count, less to measure. And them as an adjective, no, use those. Go with me to number 1 on this page. Them or those field peas are delicious. What do you think, Isaiah?
Those.
So what word are we crossing off?
There.
You're right. How about number 8? I really enjoyed listening to those or them classical recordings. Amira?
Those 3.
Which one are we crossing off? Do cross off them. You're right. Questions about what we've worked on this page today? Okay, look over with me to Think B. Our instructions here say the following sentences contain errors in the use of adjectives. Cross out any incorrect words and make corrections where necessary. All of our sentences have mistakes. Number 1, we played better than any team in the tournament. Jalen, what mistake do we need to fix?
To add other after any.
I'm so glad you didn't let that little thing slip right by you. Our sentence should say we played better than any other team in the tournament. How about number 2? There is fewer food in this package than in that one. I almost couldn't say it. Emily, what word is incorrect? There is fewer food in this package than in that one. Emily, do you count food? I have 3 foods in this package, but only 2 in that one.
Yes.
We should say less instead of fewer. Number 3, Dalcoop, I am a more faster reader than my sister.
More faster.
What's wrong with it?
It's double comparison.
So what should we do to this sentence?
Change more faster to faster.
Just omit that word more and you'll be good to go on that sentence. Now students watching, we've had a busy lesson and you've got some work to do during your independent work time. I want you to finish this first column of Think B down to number 15 during your independent work time. There are a couple of sentences over on page 210 that didn't get finished, and then one section for you to do over on page 209. It's write D. The instructions say on notebook paper, write one sentence using the comparative degree of little. When you're done with those activities, you'll have finished off your class time work for today's lesson, and you can think about your homework for this language lesson. Your homework for today is to complete page 211, Think B, numbers 16 through 25.